Plus Productions, A Plus Sports, BAM Weekly. That's Boris and Matt Weekly, the show where we chat about all things sports all around the world. We're your hosts. I'm Boris, and as always, I am joined by Matt.
Bonjour, everybody. We hope you're doing well out there. And it is the first weekend of the NFL season, so we got a big old football preview for you on this episode. Going to be talking mostly the pigskin, the leather boulder. Nobody calls it that. What the fuck is that? That was terrible.
We're going to be talking the Taylor Swift League, the Taylor Swift Recreational League.
We're all Swifties, Boris. It's Taylor Swift's world, and we're just living in it. But yeah, man, the football season is off to a roaring start. It was a great game last night. We'll briefly talk about that, preview the whole season, give you like a sentence or two on every single team. I did one of those schedule picker gimmicks, Boris, where you fill out the entire NFL schedule. I have a theoretical, blueprint of how the NFL could shake out. Mathematically, it will check out. I'm 1-0 on the season. Thought the Chiefs were going to win last night. Life is good. How are you doing, big homie?
I stopped listening to you halfway there. You were just talking about it.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, things are good, man. A little tired. Didn't really sleep too much, or at all, I should say. But that's my own fault. Wasn't out like partying or anything, just with a friend, and we were chatting to the wee hours of the morning, and then when I got home ready for some sleep, I just couldn't.
Sometimes it happens, man. What were you chatting about with your friend? Were you all excited? That's good to see old friends,
Yeah, it was good. Just chatting life, chatting things like that. Yeah, things are going well, man. Things are going well. NFL started yesterday, as you mentioned. I'm assuming this is what you said we're talking about. I don't know. Like I said, I was only half listening. I'm joking. Oh, I'm in a mood. No, but like I said, like you said, what a game last night. What a way to start the NFL season. Those NFL script writers. You know what? I hate that joke. I hate that joke so much. I've seen that joke so much today that it's just pissing me off now.
Yeah, same. Let's retire it officially forever.
Okay, that's it. No more mention. We have a growing list of things we're not going to talk about here on A Plus Productions. Now, NFL scriptwriters is in that list.
I am very much excited for the NFL season, brother. This is going to be a really a fun season. It's off to an amazing start, as we both said. So yeah, last night it was a great game. The defending champions, Kansas City Chiefs, going to be perhaps the first three-peat in NFL history, and they started their season strong versus the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. Homie.
Yeah, man. It was literally a game of inches. It was crazy. It was amazing. I loved it. What an end. Baltimore looked better than I thought they would, to be honest.
Yeah, well, Baltimore did lose a little bit in the offseason, but they're still a very talented squad. And as Chris Collinsworth said about 17,000 times last night, they're really giving Lamar Jackson the car keys this year. And he's getting, it seems, to call his own play a little more. He ran a lot in that game.
He did.
And I think that's going to be the blueprint for Baltimore going forward. If you missed the game, it was a one-score game, came down to the final play of the game when tight end Isaiah Likely caught a pass that would have brought it to 27-26 for Kansas City, and then the coach for Baltimore was prepared to go for two, so we would have seen a 2-point conversion. It would not have gone to overtime. Baltimore would have either won or lost. But sadly, Isaiah Likely's foot, just his tippy toe, Boris, was on the out-of-bounds line, and therefore the catch did not count, and Kansas City won the game 27-20. And yeah, in the first half, it felt like KC was going to pull away from Baltimore, but they hung tough. I do think, there's a couple lessons to take from this game. Kansas City's defense is really strong. When you have an offense this good and a top 10 defense, you're a dangerous team. But the same can be said about Baltimore, really. Their offense is not as strong as Kansas City's, but their defense is probably stronger. Patrick Mahomes is still just an absolute legend. He's like a legend in the making. Could be the first ever 3-time back-to-back Super Bowl winning quarterback, and for a reason, man. He stands out even against Lamar Jackson, who is also one of the greats. He stands out.
Exactly, man. All right, let us just jump into it because this is what I think we're going to do. There's a couple questions I want to ask you didn't even make you prep for this because these things just popped in my head. Then we're going to do our preview.
Sure.
And then do you want to go through the week 1 games real quick and just quickly talk about, some of the games that we're looking forward to here in week 1. That's what we're going to do here on this week's Spam. All right, Matt, couple questions for you. Who do you think in the NFL is going to be the biggest surprise?
That's a good one. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to sneak up on a lot of people this year. I really like their offense a lot. There's been a lot of talk about Will Levis as an actual real starting NFL quarterback. They have some nice talent at running back. I've always liked Tony Pollard. I like Tajay Spears a lot. Nuke, DeAndre Hopkins is there now. People forget about that. I do think he's got a lot left in the table. And yeah, because Tennessee's been bad for the last couple of years and they lost their best player, Derrick Henry, I think people have completely slept on the Tennessee Titans. So I don't think they'll be a playoff team, but like a lot of people think Titans might be the worst team in the league or they're going to be really bad. No. They're like at least 7-10, around that like 8-9, 9-8, contending for a playoff spot. Tennessee Titans are going to shock a lot of people this year.
Yeah, I think the Colts are going to be something to talk about. I think that they have a couple players that have a shit to prove, right? Richardson, right? He's got something to prove. Stroud has something to prove. I think Indianapolis is one of those teams that traditionally, it'll be up and down, but we'll see what happens. Last year, interesting year, but we'll see what happens. I think Indianapolis Colts are going to be a heck of a surprise this year. The second question, who do you think is going to be the biggest disappointment in the NFL?
I agree with you on Indianapolis. They're going to be very good as well. I worry that their defense isn't quite there, but again, their defense is all right.
The thing.
They have an awesome offensive line. Indy's okay.
So back to Indianapolis. It's going to be one of those things where I know this is going to sound so stupid, but this is the beauty about talking about sports, because sometimes you say the obvious. They're going to be scoring so much more than their defensive line is going to allow. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I 1,000% agree.
Kind of like the Maple Leafs, right? Like they rely on, like all joking aside, Leafs suck, but all joking aside, they rely so much on scoring that it doesn't matter how shit their defense is. But at the end of the day, that's their downfall. And I think that will be Indianapolis' downfall. But their offense, we'll see. All right, biggest disappointment. I'll go first on this one. Buffalo Bills.
Do it.
Fuck the Bills. I think the Bills.
Okay.
I think. Look, let's be honest. Allen, people got the book. They got the memos. They've studied him. They know how to get him. They got under his skin last year, and I think it's only going to get worse and worse.
Josh Allen's like a slightly more mobile Brett Favre to me. Like he's an unbelievable quarterback, but he's that traditional gunslinger. He will make a mistake or two. And yeah, like you said, putting some pressure on Buffalo. Or 4 or 5 or 6, yeah. I do like the Bills. They still have a pretty good roster. I don't think losing Stephon Diggs is going to hurt them as much as some people do, but we'll get into it a little later. I'm not sure if Buffalo's going to the playoffs. Another team I'm not quite sure if they're going to the playoffs, right on that fringe. I think the biggest candidate to be a disappointment this year are the Dallas Cowboys. And that's a little easy to say because the Dallas Cowboys are always a disappointment. But
that's the thing. Like, I didn't even quantify that because the Dallas Cowboys are going to Dallas Cowboy, right? Like, they're gonna Maple Leaf it all the way through into the playoffs and get, like, maybe, assuming they make it, right? They're going to make it. But they're gone round 1.
And I totally agree with that. It would not shock me to see them get usurped at the bottom of the playoffs, and it might be the end for Dak. Maybe Jerry Jones starts cutting people. It could be a bloodletting in Dallas. I'll tell you this, if they start slowly, the coach is gone. It's not going to be a long leash for old McCarthy because Bill Belichick and Mike Vrabel, a Belichickian staff, are waiting in the wings, licking their chops for that Dallas Cowboy job. One last shot at glory for old Billy B. But yeah, if Dallas starts like 0-3, 0-4, coaching staff is in deep trouble.
No, 100%. They're on very, very short leashes this year. You're gonna give later on in the show. We're gonna give our Super Bowl predictions. I'm assuming. This is my third question to you. Miami Dolphins record. What will it be?
I actually have everyone's
and the reason
record
why
when I
I
go
asked
through them.
Miami Dolphins specifically is because we're both Miami Dolphins fans. So let's just talk about them.
Okay. Well, I don't want. Yeah, we'll get to the Dolphins. We'll do the Dolphins when we go through all the teams. But I think the Dolphins are a playoff team still. Let's
Okay. We'll stop there. All right.
Let's start it. Let's start it off. Let's go to the AFC. Let's stick in that AFC East, brother. And let's start this podcast by talking briefly about the worst team in football, the New England Patriots. God, it feels good to say that. Oh, just sprinkle it on my pancakes in the morning. I just want to live in that statement. The New England Patriots are the worst team in football. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
They're going to get the number 1 pick. That's my prediction.
I did the schedule gimmick, and the New England Patriots, I feel generously 3-14 this year. They have the worst offensive line. Blitzers and opposing linemen are going to absolutely fucking eat Jacoby Brissett for lunch this year. It's going to be sad. They're feeding that poor man to the wolves. They drafted a quarterback who could potentially start this game this first week, Drake May, but he's going to be stapled to the bench for a while until they can find a couple people who can block for him. But yeah, it's going to be a rough year in New England. I think they're okay with losing a lot of games, and as you said, getting the first overall pick. 3-14 for the Patriots.
3-14. That's conservative, but I like it because fuck the Patriots.
I'm going.
All right.
We're going that low. Keeping it going in the AFC, I have two teams at 6-11 here. The Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos, both in the Kansas City Chiefs division, along with the Chargers, who are sneaky. They have they have some things in Los Angeles, the Chargers do. So I don't know what to make of either of these teams. Like the Raiders do have a very good defense. Max Crosby is a killer. He's a murderer. He's an excellent football player. But I don't know, Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback tandem, don't love it. The coaching change last year was very necessary. It seems like the players actually respect the coach now. So crazy. I don't know if... Yeah, right. So yeah, the Raiders 6-11, Denver 6-11. I don't like that roster at all. Bo Nix is walking in, they say sort of NFL ready, but is he? Is Bo Nix that guy? Maybe he's the next Drew Brees. I don't know if he is. I don't think Denver's got they lost a little bit on defense. They lost a little bit on offense. They got this rookie quarterback coming in. Yes, they have a very good coach, Sean Payton, formerly of the New Orleans Saints. He's an excellent coach for a long time, going to the Hall of Fame. I don't know about the Broncos this year, and there are so many better teams. I think 6-11 for the Broncos, 6-11 for the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders, I agree with. The Broncos, I agree with that also, but it's sad state of affairs there.
I just feel bad for all the Denver fans, but they got Jokic, they got Nathan McKinnon. It's actually a good time for Denver sports, other than the Broncos. Although,
and the Rockies.
we see. Yeah, the Rockies are dog shit. The Rockies are the worst baseball team other than the legendarily bad Chicago White Sox. Yeah, Chicago White Sox might be the worst baseball team ever since 1871. The Rockies are just generally as bad as a really bad team is, you know? Anyway, yeah, but they have the Avalanche and they got the Nuggets in Denver. So yeah, go watch them this year.
Sounds about right. All right.
Yeah, that's about right. 2-7-10 teams. The Los Angeles Chargers, and this is where I'm slotting the Tennessee Titans, and I think that's going to be a encouraging, very good, positive 7-10 for Tennessee because people are writing them off, and I think that's crazy. I think Tennessee is actually, if you look at their roster, pretty solid, and I like the Chargers a lot. New coach Jim Harbaugh, he's back in the NFL, and you know, he's got Justin Herbert throwing that bean around Boris. Justin Herbert still, when on field, when healthy, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. So Chargers should be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chargers, I don't know. I don't know. I just don't like them.
Fair. They lost a lot. They lost, obviously, Keenan Allen, who's been there forever and has been highly productive. Mike Williams, who's been there forever, been highly productive. He's now in New York playing with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Keenan Allen on the Bears now. They lost Austin Eckler to the Washington Genamanders. The Washington Genocides, I mean Washington football team, I mean Commanders. So yeah. Chargers lost a little bit. It will be it'll be up to Harbaugh to set the new culture in Los Angeles, but I don't think they're bad. They're mediocre at worst. Couple 8 and 9 teams coming at you, Boris. I have the Indianapolis Colts here at 8 and 9. You did a good job selling them. I like that. I like Anthony Richardson, ostensibly still a rookie.
Yeah.
He was a medical redshirt last year, you could say, right?
Yep.
Yeah. They drafted a rookie wide receiver in the second round who people really like as well, Indianapolis. And yeah, also 8 and 9. And I hate to see them like this, but I think the Cleveland Browns, just because they don't have a quarterback, if they can trade for a quarterback during the season, or if they can get one of the guys on the practice squad can like step up and really claim that job, or if Jameis Winston as the backup can do it and he still has something left in the tank, but it really seems like Deshaun Watson is cooked. Good, fuck that man. But yeah, the quarterback is holding the Browns back big time because they have a really good roster. Nick Chubb's injury too hurts them very badly.
And I think injuries in general has always hurt the Browns, right? Like that's something that you always need to keep your eye on. Wills Jr. And Jack Conklin, they're coming back from pretty major injuries. Are they going to be good? We don't know. Like you already talked about Chubb, and then there's their quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback situation is a mess. Deshaun Watson is a criminal and does not seem to be good at football anymore. And their number one running back, who is absolutely incredible, Nick Chubb, recovering from massages. An ACL.
That's what it is.
That might be what it is. That actually might be what it is. But yes, don't let that man near the playoffs or a massage table. The Cleveland Browns 8-9 though, because their defense is so good. Amari Cooper is the most underrated football player alive right now. Yep. He is like still an absolutely unbelievable wide receiver who is like unstoppable on like short routes. He's so strong and fucking so good. Just knows the sport. Runs a nice route. So the Browns can't sink too low because they do have a lot of talent other than the guy driving the bus. And if that changes, this pick changes instantly.
Yep.
Right now, looking at their roster, I think 8-9, 8-9 for Indy. 2 teams in the AFC will be 9-8, but miss the playoffs on the tiebreak, according to the schedule gimmick, Boris. So we have the Pittsburgh Steelers 9-8. It's hard to say they're going to be worse than they always are until Mike Tomlin has a single season where his team goes under 500. I think you got to give them that respect. And your boys, Buffalo Bills, 9-8, but will miss the playoffs on a tiebreaker. Your thoughts about Buffalo and Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, their biggest issue is their entire quarterback situation between Fields and Wilson, right? Like,
yes,
like that's it, right? Like, what's gonna really happen there? Pittsburgh, I agree with, and the Bills. You know what? I just think that little by little, people have figured them out. And they've lost a couple key players in the offseason. So I don't think the Bills are going to be this like amazing team. I can see them maybe squeaking into the playoffs. But that's it.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like that's where I have them. They're tied for the 7th spot and losing out on a playoff spot on a tiebreaker. So I think the same thing about Pittsburgh. Defense is really strong. The offense is really not. Justin Fields, if he gets in there, I do believe he is more talented, more suited to success in today's NFL than Russell Wilson is, but he still doesn't have that much better a roster than he ever did in Chicago, really. I guess you could say George Pickens is like the best receiver he's ever had, I suppose, but other than that, I don't know.
So here's a fun little stat. The Buffalo Bills apparently have the 2nd hardest schedule, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have the 3rd hardest schedule in the NFL.
There you go. And that makes sense why when picking this schedule gimmick out and actually going through game by game, I have them 9-8. And so they will be both tied with the team that will sneak into the playoffs as the 7th seed, Jacksonville Jaguars, I have at 9-8. So again, if either one of these teams actually win a different set of games and sneak into the playoffs, that wouldn't surprise me. This is about where I have Jacksonville. On paper, their roster's a little better than this, I think, but they're the Jags. They always lose in the weirdest, dumbest ways. They got to go to London, which I mean, they've performed well in these London games, but it's still a hassle to have to go to London every football season. Like they're the only team who has to go regularly. They're one of the only teams who are going overseas, so it doesn't help the Jaguars to do that.
Yep.
And I just think 9-8 is about right. How do you feel about the Jacksonville Jags?
Look, The tandem of Kirk and Lawrence, I think, is one of the most underrated tandems, wide receiver quarterback tandems in the league. If they perform to the levels that they're supposed to, we're gonna see there, right? What do you think of their rookie, Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yes, Brian Thomas looks really good. He might, in a year or two max, he might be the new favorite weapon of Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence also loves his tight end, Evan Ingram. If you're making fantasy plays, playing daily fantasy, look out for Evan Ingram games. He's like sneaky, super reliable tight end. They have a good offense. They have a good defense. Like, they have it all on paper. Trevor Lawrence seems like, you know what, Jesse the Body Ventura, and I think possibly Bobby the Brain Heenan used to say about certain wrestlers, $1 million body, 10-cent brain. Not that I'm accusing Trevor Lawrence of anything, but I'm wondering, perhaps that is a way to describe his game, you know?
He's a mimbo.
He might be a mimbo, Boris. He might be a bit of a mimbo.
Also, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the 13th hardest schedule in the NFL. So that is something to consider.
Close to average, but harder. Hard schedule. Like, nothing easy. No easy W's for the Jacksonville Jaguars. 9-8 and still in the playoffs seems about right to me. So I have the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets both tied at 10-7. With the way that I've picked out the schedule, it seems Miami would win the division. So at number 6, 10-7, the New York Jets. I kind of just feel about the Jets the way that I feel about the Steelers and the Browns. Really good defense, unbelievable defense. I don't know about the quarterback, and I love Buffalo's quarterback. I love Pittsburgh's quarterback. No, obviously Cleveland's quarterback is shit. I think Aaron Rodgers is way closer to Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson than he is to Josh Allen, who I love. Like, I think the downfall of this Jets team will be Aaron Rodgers because he's 41. Eventually, he's going to fall off the cliff. If Aaron Rodgers plays the way he if he plays to the best we've ever seen in his career, the Jets could be 14-3, man. Their roster is fucking tasty.
We haven't seen him in 2 years, basically. I don't know what to expect from Aaron Rodgers. Is he going to blow his Achilles again in the first play? Like, we don't know. Like, you just don't know what we're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers.
It's not. Yeah.
Same could be said about the Dolphins, right? We don't know how Tua's head is.
The Dolphins did lose a lot. If you look at the players who left that team and signed big deals elsewhere, it's like they lost a lot of talent, but hopefully through the draft, they have recouped some of that talent. I think Devon Achane is going to take a big step up. I hope so, because I have him in fantasy, but no, I do think he's like a gadget weapon just waiting to happen. Tua's accuracy is unbelievable. Tyreek Hill is an unbelievable weapon.
Raheem Mostert's awesome too.
Yeah. Mostert had like 18 rushing touchdowns or 16 or something absolutely mental last year. Like, Miami went to him often and to their benefit. So yeah, in terms of Miami, the 10-7 seems about right. And I think they may be poised to actually win a playoff game. In terms of the Jets, I think they're being held back by Aaron Rodgers. It's very fair to assume he's going to take some kind of step back. If you think back to even Dan Marino's last year in 1999, think back to Peyton Manning's last couple of years when the Broncos were still very good, but he could barely throw the ball. He was noodle arming it all over the place. I worry about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So Jets 10-7.
Montana when he played with Kansas.
Exactly, man. It happens. Even Brady in his last year, though the Bucks were all right, Brady was not, setting the world on fire with his numbers. So I think at best we're getting Brady on the Bucks here at best.
So the Jets have the 9th easiest schedule, and Miami has the 13th easiest.
Okay, so yeah, again, for the Jets, that's nice. Miami kind of getting up there a little bit, but that'll benefit both teams. So New York Jets 6th seed at 10-7, 5th seed in the AFC. Baltimore Ravens. We saw them play last night. Defense still looking good. Lamar Jackson looks like $1 million. Isaiah Likely looks like the new starting tight end, and he's just taken Mark Andrews' job amazingly. Derrick Henry running behind his best offensive line, even though Baltimore did lose a lot off their offensive line. This is still probably the best offensive line Derrick Henry's ever run in front of. Definitely the best team Derrick Henry's ever been on. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
So, Baltimore's going to be fine. We'll talk more about Baltimore when we're doing the playoff preview. Number 4 seed, Miami Dolphins, 10-7. We touched on them. Lost a lot, but still, I trust the infrastructure there. I love Mike McDaniel. That's my coach, baby. Rolling
He's
up,
everyone's coach. He's everyone's coach.
Rolling up to press conferences now, looking like Tommy Vercetti from Vice City. I fucking love it, Boris.
I know he's the best.
So yeah, the Miami Dolphins will win the AFC East. Perhaps we are biased. We definitely are.
Absolutely.
And I do not shy away from that. The 3rd seed in the AFC South champion Houston Texans, 11-6 is where I have them. I think there'll be a little, not a sophomore slump, but some sophomore speed bumps for CJ Stroud and everyone's favorite coach, DeMeco Ryans. Just a couple speed bumps, but they're still going to win the division 11-6.
If Houston's O-line can stay healthy, I fully agree with everything that you say.
Perfect. Yeah, and their defense getting stronger. I love the 3-headed receiving beast. They got Stephon Diggs from Buffalo, who may or may not have anything left in the tank, but honestly, I think he's their 3rd best receiver. I love Nico Collins and Tank Dell from Houston last year. He is a home run threat. He got hurt halfway through the season and still had an amazing year in terms of stats. Tank Dell, rookie last year, 2nd-year receiver, is really, really good. I love Houston.
Yep. Great call.
Thanks, brother. 2nd seed in the AFC, Cincinnati Bengals. The total opposite of the Browns or the Steelers. All they have is an offense, but it's really good. They also have a couple individuals on defense. Hendrickson on the line, on the defensive line, is a beast. He's really good. I think it's Trey Hendrickson, right? Cincinnati will go as far as Joe Burrow will take them. But Joe Burrow could win the MVP and take them to 12-5. And the winners of that extremely tough AFC North division.
Von Bell, need we say more? Von Bell is going to really help on the safety.
Yes. Yeah. They have a couple pieces. They don't have what you would call a good defense, but they finally have a couple players who you have to game plan for, who make you stand up and take notice. So I think the Bengals will win that division 12-5. That is the best division in football, though. It has the Bengals, the Ravens, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Cleveland Browns. They're all in that AFC North. So I think that will be the difference between Cincinnati winning and losing the conference. And the winners of the AFC are the winners of the past 2 Super Bowls, are the team that you must say will hold the title until they are vanquished in the middle of the ring. The Kansas City Chiefs, 13-4 this year. They will be the best team in football.
Kansas City Swifties. What more can we honestly say about them, right? We already talked about them. Mahomes, generational quarterback, probably best quarterback of like this, like we've seen recently. Yeah.
Mahomes could retire tomorrow and walk into the Hall of Fame first ballot. And we have enough respect for you, the listener, that we won't make a stupid Taylor Swift pun. We'll move on quickly to the NFC. But yeah, those are our 7 playoff teams in the AFC. Kansas City will get the bye. Cincinnati will play Jacksonville. Houston will play New York. And Miami will play Baltimore. More on that in a little bit. Let us go to the NFC, starting at the bottom. Worst team in the NFC to me this year, most hopeless, most nothing going on team, Minnesota Vikings. I actually do not like them at all. They have Justin Jefferson, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's it. They have a rookie QB. They have questionable O-line. They have questionable running backs. They have a questionable defensive line. Like, this team is just not good. They're in total rebuild zone right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, their rookie QB, J.J. McCarthy, played his quarterback in Michigan in college, applied his trade, Boris, as they say. He's already hurt for the season. This is already bad juju. Sam Darnold of New York Jets fame, he's been bouncing around the league ever since. He is now the starter in Minnesota, and, I mean, he's fine. He's like... he's not the worst quarterback in the league, but he hasn't had really any success in the league. And I don't know if he's the one who's going to lead Minnesota to the promised land. Minnesota's division also very tough. The Bears are way better. The Lions and the Packers are playoff teams. So Minnesota's in very, very tough with a tough division. Minnesota 4-13.
Bears fans need to calm down, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
We'll hit on the Bears in a second. 5-12, second worst team in the NFC, but a step up from where they were last year. The Carolina Panthers, Boris. The Panthers were kind of good 2 years ago, and they fell off a cliff 3 years ago. They were kind of good. Fell off a cliff. And I don't know, man, with these Carolina Panthers, like they have a lot of trouble. The owner seems kind of like a dick, and the other owners already don't like him. Players don't really want to play there. It's not really a destination anymore. Not that it ever was. They had something cooking with Cam Newton back in the day, but yeah, these Panthers are in trouble, and I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Then aren't they signing like all these old guys too, like just like washed up guys?
Arguably, they have Canadian running back Chuba Hubbard. They're getting some. Carolina has some players that might not be in the 53-man roster on other teams. That is the issue. But I don't know. They have the young quarterback Bryce Young. Did not show much last year, but did not have much of a chance to do so because his roster was so shit. Hopefully, they can get some more things going. They traded his best receiver, his would-be best receiver, DJ Moore, traded him to Chicago last year before he really ever had a chance to play with him. So, yeah, sad times for Carolina fans. Thankfully, there are 7 of them.
Go ahead. Keep going.
3 teams at 6-11 this year. New Orleans Saints, Washington Commanders, New York Giants. I really don't know what to make of any of these teams. I think the Giants are a little better than people think just because Daniel Jones is like, he's a living, breathing human. Malik Neighbors is a really great receiver prospect. They don't have a great defense at all, though, the Giants. They got some big holes on D, and you will be able to score on the Giants, but I think they'll sneak a couple wins out. 6-11 sounds perfect for the New York Football Giants.
We're talking about the Giants right now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I really don't know too much about them. I'm just going to leave it
it's a little bit of the same old. Like Daniel Jones seems like a worse and worse investment every single year, but they did make one at least exciting draft pick in Malik Neighbors, who could very well be the best rookie receiver in football. So yeah, Giants 6-11. That sounds right. New Orleans Saints 6-11. Sneaky fact about the Saints, they do not like Derek Carr. The organization might, but the city of New Orleans, the Saints fans, they don't trust this man. They don't like this man. I think the Saints feel like their team is going to be bad, like the Saints faithful. Who Day Nation, who Dat Nation. Anyway, it's bad times in the Bayou for the New Orleans Saints. Don't love it this year at all.
I agree with you, but okay, they have Derek Carr has running back Alvin Kamara, wide receiver Chris Olave, and Rashid Shaheed. Like on paper, they should be half decent, but
some offensive talent there. Some offensive talent is there. But Derek Carr is getting older.
Theirs is the biggest issue. Their O-line. They have a really shitty O-line, so Derek Carr is going to get his ass handed to him this season.
Yeah, that's not what you want. You do see Rashid Shaheed, I should say, on a lot of like breakout lists. Like he could be a player to really watch for in terms of a really good wide receiver. Chris Olave is slept on big time because people aren't paying attention to the Saints much anymore because they're kind of bad again. But yeah, the O-line will hurt them. Don't love their defense very much. I just think there are better teams in this NFC. I'm more intrigued by the Washington Commanders at 6-11, who I also kind of have at this level. Their defense was atrocious last year, one of the worst. But they do have this rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who looks awesome. He won the Heisman last year. He can move around a lot. He's got a good arm. Like Jaden Daniels seems like he could be the real deal. So at least there's some hope in Washington. They're a long ways away, though.
Yeah, they are, and right, they've turned over. Like this is a new roster, basically, right? They changed coaches. Yeah, we'll see what they bring.
Yeah, it's a young team, exciting team. They're building it back up. Also in a relatively tough division. Giants are shit, but the Cowboys and Eagles are right there. So yeah, Washington, New York, and the Saints feel like 6-11 to me this year, you know? All right, 7-10 in the NFC. I think the Seahawks and the Cardinals will both be 7-10. Seattle Seahawks, they're cooking a little something up. Kenny Walker at running back is pretty nice, but the days of like the show-stopping defense are long over. Geno Smith, I kind of feel like the same about Geno Smith that I do about Derek Carr. Like he had some really nice moments. I think those moments are largely up. And I think we're way closer to the end than the beginning for those two quarterbacks. Seattle does have a nice receiving core. Jackson Smith and Jigba is pretty, exciting. DK Metcalf, I should say, pretty exciting. Tyler Lockett, if he comes back, pretty exciting. But I don't know, man. Seattle, just kind of middle of the pack this year.
Yeah. New coach too, so we'll see, right? Like if I'm kind of interested to see how Mike Macdonald's going to do as a coach, as a head coach.
Yes, yeah, it will be nice to see, but yeah, I don't think this is the year that Seattle's going to make the playoffs. Arizona is going to take a nice little step forward. Marvin Harrison Jr., he's probably, if not Malik Neighbors, it will be Marvin Harrison Jr., who is the best rookie receiver. He and Kyler Murray hopefully will find some chemistry and keep that going for years and years and years. Arizona is going to be a frisky, tough out, but another team that is like interesting, tasty offense brewing. Nothing to be scared of on defense, and they could outscore you. They could catch you sleeping now and then, but I don't think they have enough to go to the playoffs.
Question for you, my friend. Does Marvin Harrison Jr. surpass 1,000 receiving yards?
In his rookie year, I do think so. I wouldn't say that about Neighbors. I do think Marvin will, just because he'll have so much opportunity. Can you name me another Arizona receiver off the top of your head?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
The one that comes to mind for me is their tight end, Trey McBride. So yeah, like Arizona is going to pass the ball to Marvin Harrison a lot. Now it's not going to work right away every single game, no matter what, because he's obviously other opposing NFL teams know that this is a rookie walking in who's going to be blanketed. He's going to be the number one priority, but he is so good that I do think Arizona 7-10 sounds about right. Kyler's going to have a big year. He'll find someone else. We don't know who it is yet, Boris. We don't know who it is on the depth chart, but someone else on that team is going to have a big year. 900 to 1,000 yards and a good amount of touchdowns for a receiver whose name we might not even know yet.
I was going to even ask you, what do you think about Kyler Murray? But you answered that already, so we're good to go.
Yeah, Kyler Murray is the kind of guy who you want to start in fantasy. He's going to have a fucking amazing year, fantasy football-wise, I bet. A couple teams who will miss the playoffs but are knocking on the door, Boris, at 8-9. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Chicago Bears. Bears. I think it's not quite going to fall into place for Chicago yet. Part of it because Detroit and Green Bay are so good. That's a very tough division, but it would not shock me to see Chicago pass Dallas and end up in the playoffs already. Chicago has a tasty defense, arguably the best offense that a rookie quarterback has ever walked into in terms of their receiving core is really good. People love their running backs. They actually have a good offensive line, which has been something that has hurt the Bears a lot in our lifetime. The Bears roster is actually pretty tasty. Caleb Williams has looked awesome in the preseason. It's 3 exhibition games, and he didn't play a lot. But what we saw of Caleb was like, oh shit, he's really good already. So 8-9 might be too low for the Bears, man. What do you feel about the Bears?
I think 8-9 is perfect for the Bears. I think that.
Okay.
Look, I don't know. I just like there's so much hype around them right now that I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it yet. I want to see them play this weekend, and then we'll be able to talk. I'll give you a more realistic view. But right now, I don't know. I'm hearing so much noise out of the Bears fans.
There is a lot of hype for the Chicago Bears. It's like Bears Nation is back, and that's part of the reason why I do think 8-9 is right. It's like a little bit of the pump the brakes. Like there is still a learning curve to play in the NFL. Like being a quarterback in the NFL is the hardest thing to do in sports. Like it takes a very special athlete. Maybe Caleb Williams is that, but to just waltz in and bring your team to the playoffs, I think it will gel in Chicago eventually. They're going to be very good in like 3 years, 5 years. Very scary team right now. Miss out on the playoffs. And Tampa Bay, it's just a matter of, do I like them or Dallas? I like Dallas slightly more. Tampa Bay at 8 and 9. Baker Mayfield, they have a very strong quarterback rush. They have a very strong front seven, as they say. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers do, and they can really get to the quarterback. Vita Vea is a fucking killer. But I don't know. With Tampa Bay, it's just we've seen it. It's almost like the Tampa Bay is that team you're bored of. You know what I mean? You're just like, eventually. They're like, kind of remind me of the Boston Bruins in hockey. You just want to pick against them, perhaps at your own peril.
Yep. Agreed.
So we're going to slot them there, missing the playoffs at 8 and 9. 9 and 8, the 7th seed in the NFC, Dallas Cowboys. Kind of talked a little about Dallas already. Dak Prescott, overrated, but still somehow underrated. Like people hate on him and say he's terrible. Well, he's not that, but people also like say, oh, you don't know about Dak. Actually, if you look at this number and this metric, he's the best quarterback in the league. And it's like, chill. Let's win a single playoff game. Let's have one good moment in January before we fucking crown Dak, please.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Just if Dak throws everything to Lamb, I think we're good.
That's going to happen a lot. CeeDee Lamb is going to catch a lot of ball. Yep. But yeah, Dallas Cowboys 9 and 8. I have the Rams here at 10 and 7. They did lose Aaron Donald, which inarguably will hurt. He's one of the greatest defensive players who ever played football. He retired. That sucks. But people think like, okay, well, the Rams are done. Cross them off, throw them in the bin. I think the Rams are still very good. Their roster is structured to win now because they always trade a lot of draft picks away. They do have some nice young talent in there. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, the running backs, are actually in a year or two, people will say, well, the Rams have some of the best running backs in the league. I think there's so much talent on offense on that team. Matt Stafford is old, though. That's what scares me. If he stays healthy, 10 and 7, 11 and 6, easy. If he goes down, and it easily could happen, Rams might be in a little trouble.
Yeah. Between Corum and Williams, they got half decent running backs, but like you said, they're one of those teams that everything needs to align for them to do well. So we'll see what happens with the Rams.
That's fair, but you can only look at the roster and say in a world where they stay relatively healthy, and that's what I'm doing here. In a world where they stay relatively healthy, 10 and 7, they start losing some key pieces, all bets are off. But you could say that about every team, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the Rams, like, Cooper Kupp has a horrible history of injuries. So, like,
true.
Yeah.
True. But another thing, like, yes, you're right. And he wasn't healthy last year, but that led to Sean McVay and crew finding a Puka Nacua and unleashing him on the league. And then Puka Nacua becomes the greatest rookie receiver who's ever lived. And now they have a two-headed attack in Los Angeles. So I do trust the organization, the structure in place to find and develop good players, Yep. I think they've earned that trust. Number 5, the Green Bay Packers. A lot of people's sexy pick to win the NFC. I just think there's a team in their division that's a little better. So I have the Green Bay Packers at 11 and 6, the 5th seed in the NFC, strictly because they're not going to win their division, so they can't be in the top 4.
Yeah.
Great offense. They remind me of the old, I guess, like New England Patriots. They remind me of the current Kansas City Chiefs, where there's not really a number 1 receiver, but there's like 5 number 2 receivers. There's like 4 or 5 guys on that receiving core who are very talented, who could put up good numbers. The running backs, Packers. Yes. The running back situation is the best it's been in Green Bay in a long time. I think Josh Jacobs is better than Aaron Jones, and I think he's going to be given the car keys to succeed a little more. Jordan Love came on very strong last year. He's a super talented kid who's developing a rapport with his super talented wide receiver room, and they've got a good defense too. So yeah, the Packers are a little bit like Chiefs version NFC, but not quite as good, and that's why they are 5th and not 1st.
Yep. Yeah, you kind of answered some of the questions I was going to throw your way. But man, but like look, like Love has such a great team in front of him. He's got Dobbs, Watson, Reed, Wicks, Tucker Craft. Who else? Who else plays there? Musgrave.
Yeah, I was going to say the tight end Luke Musgrave I also like. But yeah, you named the four receivers right there. Reed, I like a lot. I think he's going to be startable in fantasy right away. Christian Watson played awesome last year when he was healthy, but they have enough depth that it doesn't really matter if he's not. But yeah, so Green Bay 11-6, fifth seed.
Yep.
To the top four here, the Atlanta Falcons, I think, will win the NFC South, which might be the worst division in football. Falcons will win it. I think on paper they are safely the best team. They got rid of Arthur Smith, who is an offensive coach who hates offense. He does not let his offensive players soar, ironically, because they are Falcons, you see. But yeah, with the new coaching staff in there, with Kirk Cousins and or Michael Penix Jr. slinging that pill around, Boris, Drake London's going to have a much bigger season. Kyle Pitts is going to have a much bigger season. He's
even Bijan Robinson should have a good running season, right? Like I can see that being, yeah.
Bijan Robinson could easily win the rushing title. He's so talented. He could be the single best running back in football easily. No one would bat an eyelash. The Atlanta Falcons are the best team in that division by a fucking country mile.
And my friend, they have the easiest schedule in the NFL.
There you go. There you go. So 10-7 might be low for the Falcons. We're going to put them at 10-7, fourth seed in the NFC, and they will play Green Bay in the playoffs, and that would be a really fun game, Falcons versus Packers. So at the top of the NFC, I have three teams at 12-5. I don't know what team to put at the top, but because we did the schedule gimmick, Boris, the tiebreakers say that the first place team in the NFC will be the Philadelphia Eagles at 12-5. I also have the 49ers at 12-5 and the Detroit Lions at 12-5. For the Lions, it's just because the NFC is top heavy. There's a lot of tough games. They will play Green Bay twice. They're not going to win both of those games, I don't think. The Lions are here to stay. 49ers, it's injury concerns. McCaffrey's not going to play a full season. They already have Elijah Mitchell, his backup, out. They signed Brandon Ayuk, obviously. They're going to continue to play him, but he and Debo have, injury concerns. With San Francisco, just go ahead.
And they should also, have players not getting shot in the middle of the season.
You hate to see that. Hate to see that. Yeah, man.
The only reason I bring that up the way that I did was because it's like you can't even, injuries come, right? But stuff that happens off field is just like, fuck.
Well, that's the thing. It's Ricky Pearsall, who is their receiver, who was shot, and it was just like a totally freak accident. It was not his fault or nothing that he was doing specifically wrong, but it's totally right what you said. It's just luck happens, man, and it takes an incredible amount of luck to survive a season healthy. It hurt the 49ers last year. They had a little bit of a dip because they were banged up, and I just think with an older roster, more injury prone, it's tough to say. So yeah, for the Lions, I just worry about they're still young. The moment might get to them. For the Niners, they're old. The injuries might get to them. For the Eagles, it's will they play for their coaches? Last year, they gave up. They straight up gave up. So it's hard to trust a team that quit on their coaches, but their coaches were changed and the roster is sick. They have a very good offensive line. They have a very super talented offense.
Okay, yeah, their offense is disgusting. Jalen Hurts, we all know about that. On running back, they got Saquon Barkley. Their wide receivers are A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Their tight end, Dallas Goedert. Like just that alone. And, Matt, they have the sixth easiest schedule in the league.
Does not hurt the Eagles' chances. Fly, birds, fly. So yeah, just by way of tiebreaker, Eagles 12-5, 49ers 12-5, Detroit Lions 12-5. I have the Eagles 1, San Fran 2, and Detroit 3 in the NFC. So let's go to the playoffs now, Boris. We'll talk about the NFC playoffs first. Philadelphia Eagles in this simulation would get the bye. 2-seed San Francisco versus 7-seed Dallas. I think we both agree. San Francisco 49ers over Dallas.
Yeah. Cowboys won't win another playoff game this season. Sorry, Berkey.
No. Shout out to Sean Burkhead and to all the listeners out there who are Dallas Cowboys fans. Not this year, not till Jerry Jones is dead in the ground. 3rd seed Detroit Lions over 6th seed Los Angeles Rams. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I think so. And Green Bay versus Atlanta in the 4-5 game would be a lot of fun.
I think Atlanta would take that game.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I'm going to say Green Bay would take that game. What do you think in the next game it would be one of those two teams versus the Eagles? Do you think either of those teams could beat the Eagles?
No. Okay. No. So I'm going to say it right now. I think the Eagles are making the Super Bowl.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So here's how I have it shaking down. I have Green Bay beating Atlanta. I have Green Bay beating Philadelphia. So Green Bay going to the NFC Championship game. I have Detroit beating the Rams and then beating the 49ers who vanquished the Cowboys. So the NFC title game would be Green Bay versus Detroit, NFC North showdown. And I think the Detroit Lions, Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, and now Jared Goff going to the Super Bowl. And this is the best Detroit Lions team of my lifetime.
Yep. Not going to complain about that one. You're like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. But I don't know, something about the Eagles. I don't know. There's something about the Eagles.
The Eagles have a lot of talent, man. A lot of talent. So Boris has the Eagles in the Super Bowl for the NFC. I have the Lions in the Super Bowl for the NFC.
Doesn't matter. They're both going to lose against the Dolphins. So let's wrap it up. Call it a day. Keep on going.
So in the AFC, we would have Kansas City as the number 1 seed, best team in football, number 1 overall seed, 13-4. In our simulation, we would have the Cincinnati Bengals versus Jacksonville Jaguars. It's the Kitty Cat Bowl, or the Big Pussy Bump and Sierra Bowl, if you will, Boris.
I had no idea where you were going with that, so I'm like,
so anyway, I do like the Bengals over the Jaguars there. Eat shit, Tony Khan. The next game would be Houston versus New York Jets. I feel like the easy thing would be like young buck CJ Stroud just absolutely just beats the shit, just beats the shit, just absolutely cucks old fucking soy boy Aaron Rodgers. And I only use those terms because they would really anger him if he heard them. But I don't know. The New York Jets defense is so good. Their skill position players are so good. I'm enamored with their roster other than the dipshit ancient quarterback. I still really like the Jets. So I think I would say the Jets would beat the Texans.
Really? I'm putting Houston over, but that's we'll continue with your simulation.
And then Ravens versus Dolphins. I know where you're going. I think Baltimore would beat Miami. Miami yet again a one and done, and we're turning into the Dallas Cowboys. That's how I see this season going for Miami.
Absolutely, unfortunately.
Nah, sad. Okay, so in this scenario, you would have Chiefs versus Baltimore right now, and your other game would be Cincinnati versus Houston. My scenario is Chiefs versus Jets, Baltimore versus Cincinnati. So quickly, we'll go through what you would think would happen would be Kansas City versus Baltimore right now. Who do you like in that Kansas City-Baltimore game?
Kansas.
We just saw it happen, Boris, so it makes a lot of sense that you would pick Kansas City there, and then it would be a Cincinnati-Houston game. Who you like there?
Cincy.
Okay, so your AFC title game would be Kansas City versus Cincinnati, and you have?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. So your Super Bowl, Kansas City versus Philadelphia
Eagles. And, shall I say who I think is going to win the Super Bowl?
Give her.
I think he's going to three-peat. I think they're going to three-peat.
Nice.
I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to three-peat. They're just too good. Like, they're just too fucking good. And the power of Taylor Swift compels them.
That's true. That is true.
You know what I love about this? I know that this has been said a lot, but I love how Taylor Swift is here in November for 6 concerts. She has 1 off day on Sunday. And guess where Kansas City is playing that Sunday?
Is it Buff?
Yep. Buffalo.
Oh, Wouldn't you know it? The forces of the universe are working together, Boris. By God, the closest NFL city to this fine town of Toronto. I love it. You're foolish to pick against Kansas City. You really are. The thing about me, Boris, is that I
You are
am
foolish.
foolish. Yes, exactly. So I will pick against Kansas City. We will get there. So yeah, in my final four of the AFC, I would have Kansas City versus New York Jets. You know, the only two quarterbacks who have ever beaten Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. Do you know who they are?
Tom Brady and who?
Yeah, Tom Brady and Joe Burrow.
Really?
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah,
a
you're
fact.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers will not be added to that list under any circumstance. Fuck you, you soy boy beta cuck. Kansas City Chiefs 40, New York Jets 10. Eat shit, Aaron Rodgers. Go do some ayahuasca. I also think the Baltimore Ravens would beat Cincinnati. So that brings us to the AFC Championship game. In my universe, Baltimore versus Kansas City. And I think it would go slightly different from what we saw last night because the game was so close. And I do think eventually it's just the law of averages. It will change. I think Baltimore are going to the Super Bowl. Though they did lose last night to Kansas City, I think Lamar Jackson will become the third person to ever beat Pat Mahomes in the playoffs. In the AFC title game, Baltimore will beat Kansas City. And then I have a Super Bowl of Detroit versus Baltimore, which is the most violent Super Bowl that has ever happened in the history of the world. But I love Detroit. I think Detroit's going to win the bowl. This is the year. It's just like when the Cubs finally won the World Series and the Leafs finally won the Stanley Cup. Wait, that never happened. LOL. But I do think the Lions are finally, Boris, after all these years, going to scale the mountain and win the Superior Bowl.
That'll make Bob Kapoor happen because that's his team.
Nice. Yeah, I have a couple of people in my life who cheer for the Detroit Lions, and it's been 30 to 40 years of sadness and grief.
You know what? This is we already said this. The Lions, this is the best team they're going to have. There's a lot of best teams right now. The Eagles, I think this is like one of the better Eagles teams we've seen in a very long time. The obviously Kansas City, the Lions, right? Like it's
yeah.
The NFL right now, they might not have the star power of quarterbacks of yesteryear, but I think that overall the talent pool is better.
Absolutely. That's a fair assessment. And some teams, like I never even thought of that in those terms, despite me saying it like that a couple times. But you're right. It might be the most talented Philadelphia Eagles roster of my lifetime. It certainly is. It certainly is the most talented Detroit Lions roster.
Like the closest team that the Eagles had was Vic's when they made it to the Super Bowl. What, 2005, 2004?
Well, the Eagles won a Super Bowl in like the last few years, but on paper, this team is as good or better. Like it's a conversation at least. And Kansas City, they're working on a three-peat, and their roster on paper looks better than it did last year. So it's probably the best Kansas City Chiefs team of my lifetime. The Bengals have been kind of embarrassing my whole lifetime. If they get some defense, some more pieces on that defense, that's a very good Cincinnati Bengals team. We don't even the Jets have been embarrassment for all of my life and all of my mom's life. You know what I mean? With a few exceptions, the Jets have won one Super Bowl and have had a couple good teams, like a couple 13-3s in there. But yeah, it's a good time for a couple teams out there.
And with that said, Matt, let us walk through the rest of week one. There is that very rare Friday night game here in the NFL to start things off, and it's going to be a pretty good game, I think. I think it should be, including a team that we were just talking about, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Green Bay Packers.
Yes, very interesting game here. Could see it again in the playoffs for sure. It is in Brazil, which very strange to see an NFL game on Friday in Brazil. But yeah, by the time you listen to this podcast, you probably know who won this game. I think you're picking the Eagles. I'm going to pick the Packers. I think the Packers win just by a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly how the cookie crumbles in our choices. Let's look at the Sunday games, man. You know what? This is a good week for football. Like, there's some damn good games here. There might be a shitty game. I haven't looked at the entire schedule, but Let's take a look. Steelers Falcons.
Steelers Falcons. I like this one. With the new quarterback Kirk Cousins coming off, I believe, an Achilles tear. Though they're at home, and the Falcons generally play well in that dome, I think I like the Steelers defense to feast on Kirk Cousins, learning his players and getting settling into the job. So let's go Steelers. They win a relatively stanky game.
Yep, agreed. Cardinals Bills.
This is an interesting one. Because I really do love Arizona's roster, and it's not yet very cold in Buffalo. Like Arizona would not beat Buffalo in December, but in September they do have a chance. Give me the Bills just by a hair, though. Just by a hair. I'm
taking the Cardinals, baby. Nice. I think the Cardinals are going to take this one. There's something I don't know. I think Allen is going to give 5 turnovers in this game. Oh. I've lost all faith in Josh Allen. Right? Like, that's it.
You really have. But yeah, so I'm looking at this thing, and I do have the Bills winning week 1, but it wouldn't shock me to see the Cardinals.
Bears Titans.
This is one where I think the Bears fans are going to be disappointed. Yep. Home game. Everybody in the city of Chicago thinks they're going to trounce Tennessee because Tennessee has the reputation for not being good this year. And Chicago is already, like you said, being anointed champions of the NFC North by some people. So I think the Chicago fans are for a rude awakening this week. Give me the Titans on the road.
They need this rude awakening, my friend. I cannot wait for the headlines on Monday. Okay, the next game. By how many points will the Bengals beat the Patriots?
The Bengals. Okay, so there is a slight possibility that Cincinnati will be missing their top 2 receivers for this game.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. Jamar Chase might be holding out, and T. Higgins might have a strained hamstring. If one of those 2 players play, that guy will have 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. If both of them play, Cincinnati will win by 50. If neither of them play, Cincinnati will merely win by 28. So I don't know. Let's say 35-3. The Bengals are going to trounce the Patriots.
Dolphins versus Tony Khan's Jaguars.
So it's a home game, but it's Florida, so it's not like Jacksonville's traveling far. But I do like Miami at home to hold serve. Give me the Dolphins by a touchdown or 2.
Yep. Saints Panthers.
Stinky gross game. I like the Saints slightly more on the year than the Panthers. So let's put the Saints here. I would not bet even a dime of your money on this one, though, Boris.
This might be the one game where it's like you just don't know. It might be the piss break match of the weekend, and that's the New York Giants versus the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, a couple stanky games. I believe, and I might be wrong about this, but I think the Vikings are favored on the road in New York. And it's like the Giants are bad, yes, but I do think the Vikings are actually worse. And I think this is going to be a game where Daniel Jones balls out a little bit and kind of reminds people that he is a living,
Daniel Jones.
He can win a bad game. He is the king of a bad game, in fact. I do kind of like the Giants here. I like the Giants a fair bit.
Raiders Chargers.
Tough, weird one. I think we get the first game bounce, like that new coach aroma fill in the air in Los Angeles. I like the Chargers to win Harbaugh's first game as the coach of that team. So Chargers in a close one.
I hate the Harbaughs, the entire family. We have the Russell Wilson Bowl as the Seahawks face the Broncos.
This is kind of, I feel, similar to the Chicago Bears on this one. Like, everyone's writing off the Broncos, but the Broncos got to win sometime. And I think with the coach, Sean Payton, with Bo Nix, the hot young rookie quarterback in Denver, I kind of feel like this is going to be the big surprise, like the biggest shocker on the board. And I think the Broncos will win this game. Eventually, Seattle will be slightly better, but these are 2 bad teams really anyway. So I kind of want to pick the Broncos as an upset here.
I think the next game is going to see an upset, and that's just what I think. Similar to the Cardinals-Bills, I think the Browns are going to take down the Cowboys in week 1.
Yeah, I guess that is technically an upset, but I agree with that. I'm picking Cleveland in Cleveland to beat Dallas week 1, and we're going to start already. The clock will start ticking on the coach. When's Belichick and Vrabel coming in? Yep. That talk is going to start right away, week 1.
Dude, that talk. So this game's at 4:25 p.m. I think that talk is starting at 4 p.m. during the pregame. Like, let's be honest.
I love it. I love it. Literally before people sit down to dinner, they'll be firing fucking McCarthy all over Texas for sure.
You got the Commanders versus the Buccaneers.
Another stanky game. I hope for Jaden Daniels' sake that he balls out, but I think, yeah, it's a really bad matchup. I think he's going to get sacked probably a couple times in front of that tough front seven that the Buccaneers have, and a front three. I think they play a 3-4 and not a 4-3. But yeah, the front five, yeah, whatever it is, they're going to feast on Jaden Daniels this first game especially. So yeah, I think it will be the Buccaneers by a pretty good margin.
Lions Rams.
Tough one. Very tough one. I do like the Lions overall this year. And they did start their season last year by beating Kansas City, so they can come out strong. But, I think the Rams are going to have some gadgets, some tricks. Sean McVay always has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. I think it's going to be a close game that's won on a weird play or two, and I like the Rams here.
I do too. Very interesting game on Monday, and that is the 49ers versus the Jets.
Oh, I hate that I'm about to say this with every fiber of my being, Boris, but I think I'm going to pick the Jets. I think the Jets are going to break some hearts along the way this year, but they will have a good start, and everything will be right in Broadway for 1 week at least. And after Monday, we can all talk about how good Aaron Rodgers looked, and are the Jets going to be unstoppable? Is 15-2 realistic? Will the Jets go undefeated? It'll come crashing down quickly. But I think the Jets will win on Monday night.
Yeah, I think so too. My friend. NFL Week 1. Man. We are back. NFL's back, baby. We're going into that sweet spot of sports where everyone is going to be playing, where we're going to have so much to talk about, except for baseball, because the Jays suck.
We still do the playoffs. We'll do one of these shows for every regular season and playoff kickoff at least. So you got one coming for baseball playoffs and the NHL and the NBA season coming pretty soon in October. And also, Boris, we're going to do a weekly sports show as we've been doing here. But I like these special chats, these breakdown of full season things that we do. And it's already been a cracking start to the NFL season. We're 1 for 1 great games.
Yep, exactly. And I think that this is going to be a very fun year for the NFL. I think this is going to be a very fun year for sports. And most importantly, this is going to be a very fun year here for A+ Productions, here on A+ Sports, as you're listening to Bam, Boris, and Matt Weekly, where we talk all things sports. Thank you so much for listening. It does mean so much to us, for everyone who has listened. Just remember, go to your favorite podcasting app and search for A+ Sports, A+ Entertainment, and A+ Wrestling, and you can subscribe to the feed that you feel like subscribing to. If people down the road, we might just do the full A+ Productions feed. We'll see. But yeah, we want to split things up. We want to give you the power, and all that fun stuff. Anything else to say, my friend?
Yeah, I think the idea of splitting it up is just best, just because it can't be weird, and it's good to just access exactly what we want. But we'll talk if the fans are, disagreeing with that, that's fine. But yeah, man, I'm just excited to be going here. I'm just excited to be back in football times. Fall is coming, doing some stand-up shows and stuff. Life is good, man,
Agreed, man. Life is very good. You've been listening to Boris and Matt Weekly here on A+ Productions, aplusproductions.com. Go to your favorite podcasting app, A+ Sports, A+ Sports, A+ Entertainment, and you can subscribe to the feed that you want. Thank you so much for listening. On behalf of both Matt and myself, Boris, muchas gracias, and most importantly, stay tranquilo. I can't believe I just said it that way. I just said it the most white way human. White dude, human. Stay tranquilo, dude. Bodacious.
You just gentrified this podcast.
Oh my God. Goodbye.